We have carried out investigation. First of all, let me confirm the number of deaths that have been given by the Kenya National Human Rights Commission because they tally with our numbers. We have been carrying on investigations and we have forwarded about 4 files to the Director of Public Prosecutions for forwarding to courts. We have since received some of the files back with instructions to tie up some heads. Okay. And we are expecting, starting next week, then we should see some police officers taking pleas in our courts. But further than that, we are still calling the members of the public, particularly on some of the files, like the Lex Masai file, because we do not have certain crucial witnesses that we are still looking for, particularly eyewitnesses. And we do not want to lash that file because we do not want it to aid at the public inquest, for instance.
And that's the thing. Let me talk about the files that you say have been returned in order to tie some loose ends. What are these loose ends that were in these investigations?
Well, first of all, let me say that this is an institutional, close institutional issue. Because once we carry out our files, we forward them to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The loose ends are not loose on our side because by the time we were setting up those files, we were clear and sure that those officers should have gone to court and taken a plea. Because some of the things we are still waiting for are still held at the government chemist, for instance, because we have a ballistic examination still going on. We have some fire alarms that have been forwarded for those ballistic investigations. But we are clear in our minds that the outcome of those ballistic investigations, we will tie up those fire alarms with the officers that we intend to prosecute. So even as the DPP returns the files, it was our view that those files should have gone to court. And then in the event that the matter would commence, then we would have got those reports from the ballistic officers. Because if we have to wait, then we will have a long wait because we have a long queue of fire alarms, for instance, lying still there waiting for some ballistic examinations.
How long is this going to take in terms of you concluding on those particular investigations so that you say next week there's a possibility that we could start seeing officers taking plea? How long is, will you take?
It certainly depends on how fast we get those ballistic reports. And I hasten to add, in our view, those files should have been registered in court this week. Okay. So by the ODPP asking back for the files, then it's a setback to us because it is not within our purview to hasten the process of those ballistic examination because IPOA doesn't have its own independent lab. So we have to depend on the lab that is at the DCI offices. So we are pleading with the institution of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions because it is the only office, incidentally, which can also ask the Inspector General to hasten that process because the fire alarms are under the custody of the Inspector General so that we get the evidence that we require, register the matters, and have the officers take the plea. Okay.
4 files so far, this is what has been submitted. How many cases are we looking at? Because we are talking about the death close to 50. But the people that are being charged here, in terms of the kind of investigations that you've already concluded, these are 4. So how many people are you looking at, or how many files will we see in the coming weeks?
We have 18 on the queue. We have 18 that has passed through our case intake committee, and which we're hoping also to push to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions shortly. We have many others that we have not even received information from the next of kin of the deceased persons. And you know it's important for us. We also have a problem with witnesses. Because, for instance, there are some witnesses who had offered to come and give us information, but they have since backtracked. I mean, we cannot get their statements. Okay. And in most of those matters, we are moving on our own motion. We are not moving on any complaints registered by members of the public.
So, because there was a statement that you had issued asking Kenyans to share with you information in regards to whatever was happening and as far as brutality is concerned. So what you're saying is that people are not coming out to tell you that, by the way, we lost someone, or things like that?
For instance, I can cite the case of Lex Masai, and I have just told you. In the first instance, there are eyewitnesses who had come forward and said that they would give us statements. They have since not come forward. And those are crucial witnesses. And you must understand that, sometimes we cannot lash to court with half-baked evidence. We must make conclusive investigations so that even as we forward the matters to the ODPP, we are sure to get a conviction. We do not want a situation where we register matters in court and then the defendants get acquitted. And that's why I was pleading, even with other institutions, particularly the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, to hasten the matters that are coming from my power. Because the Constitution gives the ODPP exclusive mandate to prosecute. So if then we have a back and forth from his office to ours, where we have concluded matters and we are just waiting for a ballistic report, our investigators are clear in their minds that when the ballistic report comes, it will clearly join in the evidence that we have, because we do prosecution-led investigations. So we are taking matters to court, because the court, even if we take the matter to court, remember there will just be a plea, and then a hearing date will be given. So between the plea and the hearing date, we were hoping to get those reports. So by the file now going back to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, it would appear like IPOA is not pushing the matters fast enough to court. Yet, the files are lying in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. So
the blame then goes to the Director of Public Prosecution?
It may not exactly be a blame. What we are saying is that we would want him to move with haste, particularly to look at the Constitution, because the Constitution gives him powers not only to prosecute, but to fast-track cases of public interest. And we believe the Madamano cases are of great public interest.
Okay, I want to follow up on something that I asked you earlier, and that has to do with people coming out to speak on these particular issues. Why do you think you are not getting reports from the public? Why is that the case?
It can be many reasons. One of the reasons is people feel intimidated, and probably they feel that if they give us information, they then may be in trouble themselves. But I want to assure viewers and those that know that they are witnesses or they can give us crucial information, that their information will be treated with strict confidence, and they will not be exposed, so that then they can come forward and give us that information without fear. We have a way of, taking evidence without necessarily exposing them to the public, or without exposing them to any danger of their life.
Have we had cases of people maybe exposed? That's why the call to have Kenyans come and report has not been responded to with how you expected?
Certainly, not necessarily during these protests, but in the past we've had cases where our witnesses disappear or refuse to turn up, or so we cannot start the public, but we want to tell the public that we have a mechanism where we can take in evidence without exposing them. So we are urging members of the public to come forward and give us those information, even as we urge the ODPP to hasten our matters.
Okay. Now, we do want to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be continuing with this conversation, trying to look at justice for the victims of police brutality, especially during this particular period. We'll also be revisiting 2023, how many cases were brought forward, what exactly happened, is there justice for these particular individuals, and is there hope when it comes to IPOA investigating police officers for you, the citizen. We take a break, we'll be back in a few.
Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, SMS.
When it comes to When it comes to issues to do with cooperation, especially from the people that you are investigating, and this could go into some of the challenges that you face as an institution when it comes to bringing people to book and to seek justice for the people that have been injured as police brutality is concerned. What is the biggest challenge for you first? Let's start with that.
Capacity. Capacity is one of our challenges because our investigators are not as many as the members of the National Police Service. The second one is probably non-cooperation by the members of the National Police Service. When we want certain information, it takes time for that information to come to us. The other one, of course, is the RAB. You know, I mean, we have to wait for a longer period of time. The other one is also non-cooperation with some government institutions. I know, for instance, we like to get the bullets, for instance, and that can only happen from the hospital. So sometimes we have to push and pull about a bullet that was removed from a victim.
So what happens when you don't get that particular bullet? Because that then will act as evidence. So meaning if you don't have evidence, the chances of you pursuing the case...
We finally get it. What happens is that it will be delayed, but we will finally get it. But I also want to say that we are excited about the new appointments because we are hopeful, just hopeful, that the same will probably open up our relationship with the Inspector General of Police and his deputies so that we get more cooperation while we carry out our investigations. We also are also very hopeful that the new changes will bring a new strategy on how the police will deal with the protesters because we believe that if the police focuses on the goons and criminals in a protest and protect the protesters, then we will have less fatalities. And we have seen that happen, except now, for instance, today, except for the fact that there were arrests which we do not find necessary. The fatalities have drastically come down. So we are hopeful that the senior command of the National Police Service can change strategy so that we get less fatalities, and then that also makes our work very easy.
Okay, now, let me come to in terms of timeline and issues to do with the investigations, because they seem to be taking a little bit of longer time. The people that are watching, when they go a month or 2 or 3 without seeing anything being done, then they start saying, okay, IPOA is not doing their job as far as, making sure that we get justice from police brutality is concerned. Do we need to have a timeline when we conclude investigations, and what will make it easier for us to be able to give the people that deserve justice the justice they need?
The fact of the matter is that it should be a concerted effort from ourselves and our investigators, a concerted effort from the public themselves, the institution of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the judiciary, which is our courts. On our part, we can carry out our investigations as expeditiously as we can. But once we forward the matter to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, that matter leaves our purview, and we can only wait for him to finish and give consent for the prosecution. And once we take the matters to court also, we hand over that responsibility to the judiciary. So it's an institutional processes. And I cannot sit here and tell you or give you timelines when a matter can be heard in court, concluded, and a conviction given. What I can do, I can assure the public that our files we gather evidence that we know that the officers that we take to court will be convicted. And I also wish
the 4 files that have been submitted, we are sure of a conviction in terms of the type of investigation you've carried out?
Absolutely.
And the 18 that are pending right now cases?
Especially those. Our only delay is not happening because of our investigations. It is what we must get outside our offices.
So the public can be assured tonight that the kind of evidence you've gathered so far on the 4 files that have been submitted and the 18 cases that you're actually handling at the moment, there's something that is going to be done.
I can give that assurance without blinking an eye.
Okay. This is the thing. I saw a post today, and this was on your platform. The High Court had directed that the police commanders accused of crimes against humanity in the case of baby Samantha Pendo take plea on 3rd October 2024. Now, baby Samantha Pendo was killed on the night of August 11th, 2017 during a police operation in Kisumu amidst post-election violence. This is a case that dates back to 2017. The plea is going to be taken 6 years later. When somebody looks at this and their son and daughter, child died just last week, they feel like this justice is too delayed.
That is justice delayed. But I also want the public to know, if they are keen to follow on the baby Pendo's case, they will give IPOA credit, because the speed at which we investigated that matter and the now jurisprudence we set forth on command responsibility is impeccable, because that is the first case where command responsibility has come into sharp focus, that when a police commander gives orders that are illegal, then that orders, it becomes liable personally for those orders. So the thing with the baby Pendo's case is that it looped in very many police officers. About 7 police commanders were to take the plea. So we made our conclusion, and as usual, forwarded the matter to the Office of the Public Prosecutions for action. So we finished our investigations way back 3 years ago. Okay. Today, the plea is being taken. So for us, we expeditiously did our bit, and like I have told you, passed the baton to the next institution. Okay. So the baton was passed to the next institution, and the taking of the plea now is supposed to be happening in the judiciary. This is the thing. I want to wind up. I'm giving you 30 seconds to clarify something for me, and this has to do with the case of Rex Masai. So you say there's no, when it comes to evidence on this particular case, is there hope? There's a lot of hope, but we'll get even more hopeful if the public, particularly the witnesses, agree to come forward and give us the information we very, very badly need. And I want to assure witnesses again that we will not disclose who they are. Okay. And even at the point of giving evidence, they will give that evidence without the public necessarily knowing who they are. Okay. So what do you have as far as that particular case? What is pending when it comes to investigations on that particular case? An eyewitness account. Everything else is tied up. And the matter now will move to court once we tie up that. All right, John Waiganjo, Commissioner IPOA, thank you so much for your time and making time for this conversation, trying to clarify some issues and making sense of the events this week, and as far as investigations into police brutality is concerned. Thank you so much. We want to take another break here on K24 Evening Edition. We'll be coming back with more stories here on the program. Don't go too far. Continue engaging us on our socials. That my brand, that is on X, at K24 TV, across social media platforms. So we take a break. We'll be back in a few. Thank you.